Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the third in our How to Do More with Your Marketing Budget series of webinars. Today, we'll be talking about adapting to the social media changes in the current climate, where we'll be providing some really good insights and tips that you can implement in your own businesses. As for introductions, I'm Alex Lambert. I'm the Sales Director at Generate UK, and I'm joined by both Jack Turner and Stephanie Cottrell from our Client Services team. For those of you that didn't attend our last webinar, Generate UK are an award-winning, highly accredited, full-service marketing agency made up of 25 marketing professionals. We've been in business for over 12 years now, providing a wide range of services from design, development, digital marketing, and support to a broad range of clients from different sizes and in different sectors. We're also the only marketing agency in the UK with a customer service excellence accreditation, which we're extremely proud of, and it's at the heart of everything we do here at Generate UK. So today we're going to be covering the following: the impact the current climate has had on social media marketing, why you should consider using social advertising in this climate, the age-old challenge of turning viewers that are engaging to customers that are spending, and finally, we'll run through the pros and cons of each social channel. If you have any questions during or towards the end of the webinar, please use the Q&A tab just to the left of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer all of the questions at the end. We're also running a few polls, which you'll see just under the Q&A tab, which we'll also announce the results of at the end of the webinar. I hope you enjoy all of the content today, and I'm now going to hand you over to Stephanie Cottrell.
Thanks, Alex. Hi, everyone. As mentioned before by Alex, my colleague Jack and I are going to speak about how COVID-19 has changed social media's reality. But why we have chosen this matter? Well, the reason is because we believe that social media is the best marketing tool in terms of visibility. We can reaffirm this with Digital Marketing Magazine's quote. They say that social media reaches 75% of all people online. So this is a lot, and considering this powerful data is a must, because it's not enough just being present in these platforms. To fully successfully use social media, you will have to understand the tactics and the strategies to properly interact with audiences. This is the main reason why we want to know how COVID-19, we want to study this, how COVID-19 has changed businesses' social media marketing. So historically, social media interactions have always changed, but not as quickly as during this period. It's obvious that the current climate has forced us to temporarily spend our lives online, even if we didn't want to. And this has highly impacted users' behaviors in social media. So the current climate is changing all the time, and it's changing our reality too. So it's difficult to give an accurate diagnostic in terms of how to adapt social media strategies in times of crisis. So what we recommend is to monitor the situation in a weekly basis, and considering a couple of things, constantly check some things. So the first thing that we recommend is reviewing social media content calendars. Some companies use this type of document to create in advance all the content, and then only they need to focus on the interaction with the users. So this is very good, but we cannot forget that content can expire, and now more than ever. So we recommend checking daily this content to assure is up to date. The second step that we recommend is checking the best time of posting. So this is a tricky one because it's important to understand that marketing isn't a science, so we can't know the best time of posting. All depends in the audience, the particular industry, and multiple factors. A same post will never have the same reactions, even if you do it the same day, the same content will never have the same reactions. So, however, it's good to test different times and use all the tools as reference. So we recommend having a look to Sprout Social. They have done a very good report about the best time of posting before COVID-19 and after COVID-19, and they divide this by industries and by channels. So you don't lose anything by testing. This is how social media works. You have to test, then you will fail, and probably in the future you will succeed. So we recommend following this. The third step is stop and listen to your audience. Check what they are speaking about, what is trendy, and the perfect way to do this is by reading a little bit of Twitter, seeing the trending topics and everything. So the big question is, what can brands do to increase social media's engagement rate during the different stages of crisis? What can we do right now? We have divided this question into answers. The first one is humanize your brand. We began facing a human crisis, and this made brands starting to focus on their employees. They started to put people before profit, and they needed to communicate what they were doing to cope with the crisis. So a perfect example is KLM. They showcased exactly how they were, which measurements they were putting in place to make flights be safe. So customers will build trust after seeing this kind of videos. Very engaging, and they are showing exactly how users will have to take a couple of actions. So this is a very good content. Then we recommend supporting your customers, showcasing your culture and employees, be transparent, and everything that is related with the emotional messaging. The second answer to the question is keep brand awareness strong. But how can we do this? So we have showcases here a couple of tips. The first one is adapt your messaging to your audience's needs right now. And this is something that Marks and Spencer and Joe Wicks have done perfectly. Marks and Spencer, they identified that that clients were visiting their stores, they were buying lots of food, and then this food was getting expired. So they thought, why don't we launch a video about could people freeze eggs and cheese? No one will never thought that before. So they started to speak about it, and it was very successful. In the same line, Joe Wicks saw that the gyms were closing, and he was one of the first personal trainers launching this kind of content, exercises at home. So he became viral, which is great. Then another thing to keep brand awareness strong is think why people should be following your brand. Why do you think this? So this is a bit difficult. If you think this question, probably you won't know what's going on. But that's why we have some research, and an Edelman report of social media. They affirm that 60% of users that follow brands, they are expecting a customer service. So it's very important if you have social media to give one-to-one communications, to be always responding to queries of your clients. This is very important. And please don't forget using advertising, because it's not worth it creating a good content if only your followers are going to see it. You will need to promote this content and etc. So which is the best strategy to follow during this crisis? We believe is combining both organic post and paid post. We have to focus on a 60% on organic post. This means on the top of the funnel, awareness and interest. Organic post is basically what I have been talking about previously: emotional messaging, tips, employee branding, all those kind of stuff. A 40% should be focused on paid post and sale activation. However, my colleague Jack will perfectly explain in detail this section to showcase why it's important for brands to be using social ads.
Thanks, Effie, and hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So, why should your business be using social ads right now? Well, as Steffi mentioned previously, social advertising is a brilliant way to bring more reach to your communications because it takes your content past your existing followers into a much wider community. If you consider your existing following, that's only a small fraction of actually the audience that's out there. So social advertising really helps to bridge that gap between your organic following and the much wider community. Secondly, it's targeting. So social advertising actually has probably the best targeting options of any advertising platform online because of the vast amount of content that's shared online, especially in social places. Platforms can create really in-depth personas that allow you to target to the most relevant and most likely audience to convert, which is just fantastic. And finally, it's cost effective. Social advertising can cost as low as 20p per click, which when you consider platforms such as Google Advertising can go upwards of £10 a click, makes it a really cost-effective solution for a lot of businesses, especially during current times. The other reason you should be investing in social advertising right now is the concept of share of voice versus share of market. So the concept of share of voice and share of market talks about what your brand needs to spend in order to attain a market share. Typically, this comes to equilibrium in a perfect world anyway. So if you were to have a 60% share of voice, you would expect to have a 60% market share. So right now, a lot of businesses are cutting back on their marketing spend. This is happening across many industries. Marketing is usually one of the first departments that are affected during a crisis due to the cost-saving nature of a business right now. So essentially, this means that a lot of your competitors are probably going to be underspending relative to their market share in their share of voice because they're cutting back their advertising. What this means is there's a much greater opportunity for brands that are going to continue advertising and perhaps even increase advertising to rapidly increase their market share especially in the long term, because you're going to be creating an excess share of voice, which eventually will hit equilibrium. So right now is actually one of the best times to invest in advertising because not only is it cheaper to do so because there's less competition, there's actually more opportunity as well to gain some market share which may not have previously available. But it's all well and good having the reach and having the audience, but if they're not converting into customers, it's very difficult to justify a return on investment. So the first thing you need to do to convert viewers into customers is to be relevant. You should ensure the message you are offering is relevant to the audience you're targeting. If it's not relevant, if it's not going to the right audience, if it's not coming at the right time, people aren't going to engage with your advertising, and it's likely you probably won't even get clicks, let alone customers. Secondly, you need to be engaging. Social feeds are more crowded than ever before due to the just vast array of people who have shifted to an online work-life balance. So using bold creative and messaging is really going to help you stand out in social feeds and catch attention. Thirdly, landing pages. So it's something that can often be overlooked by brands that we work with is the actual landing page once someone gets onto your website. So the landing page is really the gateway to your brand for a lot of visitors. So it's really important to ensure the message that you're providing within the landing page is as consistent to the message of your advertising as possible. If you're offering a free consultation, for example, it's really great to make sure that the first message you see within the landing page is offering this free consultation, just to reaffirm your messaging. And finally, test. So try different audiences and ad sets to just learn a bit more about actually what does and what doesn't work. So Steffi summed it up quite well in that marketing is not a science. making sure that you're trying different things and really working out what's going to work for your brand is vital to having a successful social advertising strategy, because otherwise you are just not going to be able to use a one-size-fits all approach, and you might find that actually you're just not achieving what you think you could do with social advertising. So I'm going to pass over to Steffi, who's going to talk through Facebook and Twitter and the pros and cons.
Thanks, Jack. So we are going to speak about the pros and cons, and I'm going to mainly speak about Facebook and Twitter, and my colleague Jack will speak about Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. Okay, so Facebook. Facebook is a great platform for B2B and B2C, and is one of the best social networks to be present, just because of its large audience pool. So if I think about it, I have Facebook, my mom has Facebook, my dad has Facebook, sorry, and even my grandmother has Facebook. So I don't know if anyone is in the same situation as me, or that my grandmother is very modern, but well, as you can see, 3 generations are out there, and it's good to reach them in terms of brand awareness. So this also involves a great feed built for conversation and engagement. What are the cons of this? So everyone is out there, and this will include your competition. So it's a bit difficult to stand out. And in another way, algorithms are built to promote user content over brands content. So sometimes your post won't have so much engagement as you are expecting. In terms of paid advertising, what we have noticed? Well, we have noticed that one-to-one communication through Messenger is becoming more powerful. According to Hootsuite, Facebook Messenger conversations have increased at 50%, which is a lot. So this may give brands an opportunity to increase the Messenger ads strategy, which is very good. Also, Facebook gives you an in-depth targeting options, which is perfect to reach the exact target. And this is fundamental for a social media strategy. And also, it's great that you can link this to Instagram directly. So you can save time while you are doing both advertising, you're advertising in both channels. So what are the cons? Sometimes people don't want to receive Messenger ads because they use this tool to communicate with their friends, and that communication may be interrupted if they see ads. Probably it's not the best platform, but you don't lose anything if you try it. As we have been mentioning before, we have to test to see if that works for your personal account or your business account. And sometimes reporting can let you down. Stats aren't as accurate as they should be, and this can difficult the process in other campaigns, in other future campaigns that you want to do. So let's go through organic posts on Twitter. This is also focused on B2B and B2C. It's a great platform, and it's a great opportunity to create and share brand voice, because lots of people are out there and you can create lots of interacting content. This platform allows you to do this. Also, you can check the trending topics and create content around it. So it's very good because you can see what people are talking about. And a new feature that has been recently launched is the images alt text. So this is a great SEO opportunity, as you can add keywords to your pictures and do 2 by 1. So you can increase your SEO visibility and also your social media visibility, which is very good. But what are the cons? Unless you are connected to this social media platform, your followers won't see what you are posting because it has a short post life cycle. So people will need to be connected. And also you have a risk of negative brand feedback. This is well known as haters. You can find lots of haters in this platform. And we recommend always following a protocol in order to respond properly, because sometimes these haters can damage your reputation and you will need to take care of that. Regarding to Twitter advertising, it's very useful to know that Twitter is the most cost-effective social media platform. Is really cheap. It's less than, the cost per click is less than 50p, so that's very good. This is great because, as Jack has mentioned before, you can expect a higher return on investment, so this is great. Also, you can have other ways of targeting. One feature that you can find is the follower lookalike audience. You can add a user, an influencer, and target their followers. Sometimes this cannot be as accurate, because if you want to do a correct digital marketing strategy, you will have to focus in audiences more in depth, but we will speak about that a bit later. And in addition, Twitter allows you plenty ways of advertising. So you can use plain text tweets, image app cards, video app cards, even you can promote GIFs, you can promote whatever you want. So this is very good. However, you can find also some cons. Despite the feature mentioned before of the follower lookalike audiences, the targeted options are limited in order to conduct a strategy. So you will need to use other tools. For example, if we compare it to Facebook is much better in terms of targeting audiences. And the short life cycle doesn't allow you to have a high on-page engagement. So yes, these are the pros and the cons. So I will pass into Jack now so he can explain a bit more about Instagram and the other channels.
Thanks, Steffi. So we focus primarily on the organic for Instagram, mainly because of the fact that its advertising platform is primarily linked to Facebook. You can do exclusive Instagram targeting, however, it really works best when it's combined between the two channels. So we focus primarily on the organic. So similarly to Twitter and Facebook, Instagram is best suited to B2C organizations. This is because of the highly visual nature of the platform. Video and image is king within Instagram, and it really gives you a light to shine your products over your services. So this makes it perfect for e-commerce organizations. This is even better because within Instagram, you can now link directly to your products, either to your shop page or to the internal e-commerce platform that Instagram is now building, which is fantastic and a really great opportunity for e-commerce brands to really shine a lot on their products within the platform. The visual nature of this also helps to build brand connection. So it's always easier to create a connection when you're showing rather than telling. So this is where Instagram is probably better than Facebook and Twitter in building these brand connections, because it's relying on more visual format, which makes it even easier to just sort of build these connections and to build the engagement. If anyone here attending today is like me, you'll find that actually it's really easy to spend quite a long time going through Instagram because of the way that it just constantly provides new content. So this leads to a very high average time spent on the app, which is brilliant for engagement as well. However, there are some cons to Instagram, and the first is URLs and linking. So while linking is easy for e-commerce, it's not so easy for brands that are sending to specific landing pages or to B2B firms that potentially want to get you onto the website to communicate more. This is because URLs aren't possible the moment to be added to into a post. Instead, you'd have to send them via your profile, which just causes a negative user experience. It really limits the opportunity you have to get people onto your website. And also, there are issues with targeting. So as you mentioned, Instagram relies very heavily on Facebook's audience pool, which means that essentially it doesn't really have a collective audience data of itself, and the data it does have isn't always the most reliable because it's completely subjective to any post you viewed previously. So it can build up audience profiles which just aren't always correct. So always be mindful when it comes to Instagram targeting of how to use it, because it might not always be the most accurate. And then we're going to move on to TikTok. So for those who don't know, TikTok is one of the fast emerging social media platforms out there. It's expected to have 10 million UK users by 2021. And the reason for this is due to the short form video that it uses to create engagement. So it's a video sharing platform which has just grown exponentially in the last year. And as we can see, it's going to continue to grow. So what makes this so unique is that it's completely video based, which if anyone remembers the popularity of Vine back in 2013, 2012, they'll know that actually this can be a really effective medium to just create engagement, especially brand engagement. The problem is TikTok is primarily at the moment made up of younger audiences. So unless your product or your service is going to be related to them, it's very difficult to actually create a organic audience within the platform right now. We're seeing quite a lot of brands are trying to do this. For example, Mercedes-Benz have been launching some hashtag challenges, but we are largely seeing that the audience really isn't that suitable to brands like this yet. So it's probably one to consider more in the future than right now, but it's something you should be aware of. But that doesn't mean that you can't use some of the principles of TikTok in your other social media channels. So short form video has always been one of the most effective tools for engagement. And the example on the right from T-Mobile shows that using some of the examples of TikTok and using the short form engagement, showing quirky imagery, quirky videos, are really going to help you to just stand out in those crowded social feeds. As we mentioned before, that is one of the big issues that brands are currently facing. It's actually being able to stand out and get that reach beyond their community. And TikTok, or using the styling of TikTok and these short form videos, are just really going to help you to build that engagement. And finally, we're going to look at LinkedIn. So whereas the other channels have been primarily focused on B2C, LinkedIn is a B2B platform. It prides itself on its professional network and a ability to get to networking opportunities for brands. So LinkedIn is most effective as a one-on-one communication with professionals. This is largely down to the array of different groups, job roles, business topics that are all available to access and engage with within the platform. So if you are a B2B organization and you're not using LinkedIn, we recommend you change that immediately, because there are so many opportunities for you to really communicate with your core network organically within the channel. The con of LinkedIn is that it does have a challenge right now between personal and professional, and striking the right brand tone is really important in LinkedIn, because we've seen a lot of brands try to take a more informal approach within LinkedIn and they've suffered because of it, because people don't want to receive that sort of engagement all the time within LinkedIn, because a lot of people still see it as a professional network and they want to see more formal posts. They want to see content that's sort of going to engage with their professional needs rather than their personal needs. And similarly to Facebook, LinkedIn's organic feed is primarily built to promote user content. So this doesn't mean that your brand isn't going to gain visibility. It just means that it might take a little bit longer for you to gain that visibility. As your authority grows within LinkedIn and you continue to post, you will find that this improves, but it's something to be mindful of right now. And finally, LinkedIn paid. So LinkedIn paid, considering to the organic approach, is still the best form of advertising for B2B organizations. It's just due to the in-depth industry and professional targeting that's an offer within the platform. So you can target by job role, you can target by function, department, seniority, number of employees in the business, industry. There's so many advertising opportunities which just aren't available in any other platform, which just makes it brilliant for B2B. The problem is, though, is that this comes at a premium, and actually LinkedIn advertising is a very expensive advertising tool. It can cost up to £5 to £6 a click, which sounds a lot, but actually if you consider that it's probably sending someone a lot more relevant to your website than what Facebook, Twitter or Instagram would do, it's something that you probably want to have as part of your social media advertising strategy. It might just be that you don't expect a lot of traffic. The traffic you do receive, you should expect to see of a higher quality. So to summarize, how can your business adapt in 2020 to the challenges of COVID-19? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. So the first is to provide value. As we mentioned before, it's really important to take the time to consider your audience right now. Actually, what do they need from your content? whether that's customer service, whether that's engaging imagery, whether it's offers. It's really important that everything you do communicate right now has to be valuable and it has to have a name. Don't just post for the sake of it. Make sure the content you are sharing with your audience is really going to hit home and provide value to them. Secondly, is to be human. Showcasing your internal culture, what you're doing to help, and even vulnerability is all really going to benefit you right now in building engagement and connection with your audience. If there's one thing that this crisis has shown is that everyone's in the same position right now, and what people expect of brands has lessons because they understand that everyone is human and everyone is facing the same challenges right now. So don't be afraid to show this. Don't be afraid to communicate what you're doing and how you're helping your employees, because at the end of the day, this is really going to help with your brand connection. And finally, maximizing reach. There's such crowded social feeds right now that it's really important that you're using advertising smartly just to help boost the content that you need to share with a wider audience, because you can't always rely on going viral. That's not going to be a opportunity for everyone. So maximizing reach and spending smartly with advertising is really going to help to ensure that you can stand out and really gain some traction within social. And to that end, if anyone is interested, we're offering a free social media audit to everyone on the webinar to assess their social channels, to provide some insight and recommendations as to how you can start winning at social. For anyone that's interested in that, we'll be providing a free audit. Just please get in touch after the webinar and we'd love to set that up. And finally, we'll be promoting a new webinar next month on conversion rate optimization. So please join us if you're interested. We'll be talking about how you can really maximize your current audience and really create strong engagement and conversions within your landing pages and your website. So please join us on Wednesday, the 15th of July at 10 a.m. So now I'm going to pass over to Alex, who's going to take some of your questions.
That was great, guys. Thank you very much. Just before we go into questions, I'm going to announce the results of the polls. If you haven't had a chance to answer the polls yet, there's still time. You can just go to the left of the screen, click on polls, and then click on modify, and you should be able to go in and interact that way. So the first poll we ran was, what social media channels are you currently using? The winner of this, although it's fairly close, is Facebook on 28%, although it's moving around a bit because people are still answering the polls. We've got shortly behind there is Twitter, then LinkedIn, interesting, and then Instagram. TikTok is a big zero at the moment. It just shows that the adoption within the kind of B2B and B2C industry is just not prevalent at the moment. But yeah, it's pretty much split by each quarter across Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. The other poll we ran was, are you currently advertising on social media? And this is pretty much neck and neck as well. 52% are and 47% aren't. So maybe for the 47%, something to consider if it's obviously commercially viable for your business. So on to questions. We've had a good number of questions come in. So you just give me a second. So the first question I have here is, how many hashtags should I be putting in my posts? Is there any benefit to using them? And that's obviously to either Jack or Stephanie.
Yeah, I can reply if you want, Jack.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So before, hashtags were much useful because you couldn't search terms and the hashtags will help you to search different content. But now the algorithm has completely changed, and if you search some terms, for example, in LinkedIn and in Twitter, you will find all the content related to that and all the comments. So it's really, if you want to put some keywords or some determinate words, you can do it. We cannot answer which is the proper amount. Before, it was more useful than now, because now you can do it by directly typing the content and that's it. So yeah, that should be the answer.
Perfect. Thank you very much. The second question I have is, What would be better, in-mail advertising on LinkedIn or sponsored posts? Budget-wise, is one more expensive than the other?
So it all really depends on what the goal is of your campaign. So if you're trying to build connections and you're trying to really spend the time to communicate with someone the benefits of your product and service, then email can be great for that. However, that's not always the best approach because it can be a bit like messenger ads on Facebook. It can be quite invasive and people don't really always want to receive this content. So this is where sponsored post comes into its own, because you can really just push your message on into the feed rather than going into someone's chat area, which is just not always the best approach, as you mentioned. Budget wise, again, you could spend £250 on email and £250 on sponsored content. You probably will receive less engagement with sponsored posts because it's a bit higher cost per click. However, you might find that the engagement you do get is of a higher value because people are going directly onto a landing page or onto a guide or whatever you're sending your customers post engagement. In mail, you'll find that actually engagement happens within the mail itself. So you won't always get replies back or clicks to landing pages. So it really does depend on actually the goal of your campaign.
Perfect. Thank you. What are the differences between sharing content on your personal page versus sharing it on your company page? Should I be doing both?
It's something we're seeing more commonly that brands are basically creating brand advocates within their own employees, and you actually will have employee accounts that will be sharing brand content and engaging with the organization within their own social feeds. One of the benefits of this is that it allows you to basically boost the visibility organically because not only are people engaging with the post, which every platform likes, so they'll help hopefully give you a bit of a leg up within sort of the algorithms, but also it gives you visibility among your employees' own networks. So in terms of the differences between sharing content on a personal page versus sharing on a company page, sharing on a personal page allows you to probably be a bit more informal, to probably strike a different brand tone to what the company page should have, because there should always be consistency in how you're communicating as a company, because people expect you to have a certain persona, whereas that's completely different on a personal page. It actually allows you to talk about your brand as if it was a customer, and it allows you to be a bit more informal, probably a bit more less serious if you are going to be talking about, say, a lawyer firm, for example. What the tone you strike will be completely different. So there are some key differences, and I think you should probably be doing both because it just helps to boost that visibility and really to get your brand seen just by a lot more connections.
Perfect. This next question is quite an interesting one, considering the kind of content you're seeing on these channels nowadays. Is LinkedIn becoming the new Facebook?
I don't think LinkedIn is becoming the new Facebook, because Facebook already has a high audience there, and LinkedIn is more focused on B2B, and it's a professional network. It's true that it's changing, like the emotional messaging is now being protagonist in this social media platform, but Facebook will always be destinated to friendships, and it's not as big. So Facebook, sorry, is much bigger than LinkedIn right now. So
in terms of, sorry,
Sorry.
Sophie.
Yes,
in terms of LinkedIn, we are finding that, as you mentioned, people are starting to use more personal language, and this isn't something that we'd always recommend doing, because we do actually find when this sort of posts do go out, there are some negative feedback from sort of the old guard who do prefer this to still be a professional network. So we probably wouldn't recommend sharing all of your content you might share on Facebook, such as what you had for dinner or where you've been, but life updates and things that would matter to your professional network can still be shared. So if you'd, for example, just got a new job, that's always great. Maybe if you've just had a child, that's something again that people might want to know about you, because the line is blurring between professional and personal right now, and it still would actually matter to that audience because it might mean you're a little bit less contactable. things. So just be mindful of the content you are sharing on LinkedIn as opposed to what you would share on Facebook.
Perfect. Great. So as Jack mentioned earlier, please do get in touch if you'd like us to carry out an insights report on your social channels. And if you've missed out on our previous webinars, you'll be pleased to know we've recorded them. So you just get in touch at the end, and we'll share the links if you're interested in having a look back. We will be following up today's webinar with everyone who's registered and attended with a follow-up email, so you should be able to see the actual recording from today if you have any questions relating to anything that was brought up. But unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. Thank you again for joining us, and if anyone has any questions or they want to get in touch, the details should be showing up on the screen at the end, and you'll also receive an email through. Thanks again.